This episode of Lobbing Scorchers is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based seller. Not only are they a local company, but they've been supporting independent Seattle soccer media since 2011 and are run by Sounders fans. They offer the best boutique wines in the world to members of their mailing list with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Their model is simple. 1, they email compelling offers. 2, you request bottles that sound appealing. 3, your wine arrives at their Soto warehouse and is ready for pickup or shipping. Their Soto tasting room is also open to the public. If you're interested in joining their mailing list or learning more about them, visit fullpullwines.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 67 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lillianwall. I got producer Noah here with me, and we are coming to you from way too early on a Thursday morning for a dub pod. Noah, how are you feeling?
It's never too early for a dub pod, Ari. And, you know, frankly, I like the morning pods. I feel like I get to have my little coffee and my little chat with you. It's like we're living together again.
It's a nice way to start out the day. There's nothing wrong with a 7:45 a.m. dub pod, which is what we're doing right now. We are back at it with what I think is at least one of the best dub pods of the season, if not the best dub pod of the season. Seattle Sounders 3-0 over the Vancouver Whitecaps. So much to talk about with this performance from Seattle. You had Georgi with his first MLS goal. Congratulations to Georgi. Albert Rusnak had another couple goal contributions and was absolutely cooking again.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, there was the Paul Rothrock goal, obviously. I mean, you know, that's old news, but he did get another one.
Another banger,
another
too,
really
yeah.
Nice one. That was a great team goal. So we're going to break it all down in our game review. We're going to hit our agenda check. I've got a new agenda for the week.
Let's go.
We're going to take your questions. Thank you to everyone who submitted those. We're going to hit some other results from around MLS, including there's a Supporter Shield winner. Shockingly, Inter Miami has won the Supporter Shield, which, it's like an underdog story of a scrappy team that defied the odds of, no one thought they could do it. And
they had to break rules to get there. They had to, they were sanctioned. They were hated on.
It's an inspirational. Like, they're going to make a 30 for 30 about it one day. But anyway, we are going to talk about Inter Miami winning the Shield.
We need the clicks, folks.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's gonna be a good show. Before we do all that, though, I did want to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. That's sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. We have a couple new subs to thank. Noah,
We do.
you have the list pulled up?
Oh, Ari, of course I have the list pulled up. How would I be a producer if I didn't? Here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah, do it.
Kenneth Wade, Joey Pasquinelli, David McCoy, Owen Mason, Daniel Pavado, Samuel Fout, Ian Mitchell, Christopher Smith, Norm Bontier, Thomas Martin, Greg Hoker, Chris Maley, Andy Hill, Mike Lentini, Nate Bontier, David Rodriguez, CJ and Miles Marinakis,
My nephews.
Mark Ottinger, Zach Heckman, David Pope, Brian Morton, Claire Berger, Robert Singh, Tyler Nakatsu, Steve Hudson, Choska, Patrick Sexton, John Hammaker, Emma Mbach, Justin Walker, Jay Anders, Ryan Shane, Nathan Jones, and then our newest 2 subscribers, Benjamin Dovashar and Isaac Johnson. Legends.
Thank you so much, Benjamin and Isaac. We're getting up there now. We're getting close to 40 subs, so we love and appreciate all of you.
And thank you for supporting independent Seattle soccer coverage more than anything. Jeremiah was actually up in Vancouver, and I was going to go with him as well, but I didn't because I have to fly to Texas tomorrow. But regardless, you're helping us improve this podcast. You're helping literally have better coverage of the Sounders, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you have yet to do so, please subscribe to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. We are still on the drive to 600 subs. We're at about 567 now. So all you have to do is click your mouse one time. Super easy.
Super easy.
And that's another great way that you can support the show as we try and continue to grow our presence on there. All right, let's get into this game review because there's a lot to get into with this dub pod. Let's start with our lineup reaction as we usually do. Just a couple of minor things, but they turned out to be significant.
Yeah.
You had a Georgi start, which was good to see, and it turned out to pay off. And De La Vega off the bench. Noah, what did you think of this lineup?
I saw Georgi. That was my first thing that I noticed. I saw no De La Vega start, which didn't really surprise me, to be honest, considering that's not really been the thing they've been doing with him on short turnaround and rest. I was stoked to see Georgi get minutes, and I thought with Scottish Messi being out, this team had every opportunity to have a breakout match.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of their Scots were out.
The Scot and the Scot.
Stuart Armstrong was out as well.
Which is who's boys with Scottish Messi, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Vancouver, they were definitely a little shorthanded going into this game, but you're right, that presented an opportunity for Seattle, and they still had some of their guys out there. Brian White was out there. Kubas was out there. They have a pretty good defense. Those guys were all, I think, for the most part, out there. So, but definitely, I think this game illustrated how important Scottish Messi is to everything the Whitecaps do. It didn't seem like they had many ideas without him. But honestly, even with those absences, this game was a lot more one-sided than I would have expected, especially playing at BC Place. Seattle beat the shit out of the Whitecaps pretty much front to back. This was a fantastic performance on both sides of the ball, I thought. Vancouver had a couple of chances and Seattle was Stephen Fry had a couple really couple of his best saves of the season, and knew who had a goal line clearance.
That was so
but
nasty.
I thought, exactly. I thought with the knowledge that when you're playing on the road, the other team is going to have a couple of those chances, the defense came through with some huge plays in this game. So I actually thought that some of the chances that Vancouver had that Seattle was able to thwart like that really added to the performance, in my opinion.
100%.
But let's talk about these goals, because it was really... I thought Seattle's control of the game state and also their execution in attack, in possession, and transition were all fantastic in this game, and they were rewarded for it with 3 goals, which anytime you drop 3 on the road, that's a good night at the office.
Yeah.
So let's break these down. Seattle scored first. Who scored the first goal, Noah?
That was... Who was that? I don't even... It wasn't Rothrock, was it?
It was Georgi.
Okay,
Georgi got his first MLS goal.
Guys,
Honestly, I set you up for that. Because
I was not prepared.
It was Georgi.
Guys, listen. This is a very professional podcast.
It's a 7:50 a.m. dub pod. Okay.
Footmob is being open.
But this was another set piece goal, and really, Seattle's been one of the best set piece teams in the league this season, I think. At this point, we can safely say that. Albert Rusnak with another pinpoint corner kick delivery.
Dime deliverer.
Dime deliverer. Jordan Morris skies up to win the header, which, man, they've been a dynamic duo in general, but just on corner kicks and set pieces, they're one of the best 2 doing it in MLS right now. Jordan's winning every header. Rusnak's delivery is on point every time. This time, Jordan wins the header and heads it across to Georgi, who was just right in front of goal. There's a defender in goal keeping him totally onside, and he literally just puts his hands behind his back and sticks his body out, and it deflects off him into the net. So it wasn't like a banger finish by Georgi or anything. He's basically just poaching, but he gets credit for that. That's smart positioning. That's a good run, and that's perfect execution of your job on the set piece, and fully deserved first MLS goal. And we're going to talk about Georgi, but I think it was great to see him finally get rewarded with getting on the stat sheet for how he's been playing, because he's been making the most out of these minutes, I think, in every way except for that final product. Mm-hmm. So to see him get a goal, that's a great sign. And really, I thought the wingers, Georgi and Rothrock, were, they were cooking in this game.
They were cooking. They were so
It was a great
cooking.
game for both of them. But yeah, congrats to Georgi on his first MLS goal. Seattle at 1-0. What I liked about this is they maintained control of the game. Even when you go up 1-0, the other team, especially when they're at home, they are going to be coming at you to try and get that equalizer. And Seattle did not relinquish control of this game at all.
No.
they were so good in possession in this game, man.
I agree.
They were winning all the second balls. They were keeping the ball. There was one point, I don't know what it ended at, but they were up towards like 65, 70% possession.
Looks like it was 60-40.
60-40, which doesn't mean anything in itself, but it was I think it was very much possession with purpose. Like,
and I think too, like towards the end of the game, the Whitecaps were really pushing for just like one goal. This was after
a dignity goal.
Yeah, a dignity goal. So like I think those possession stats may be a little bit like they don't tell the full story, but like in possession, the Sounders were doing what they do best, and that was keeping the ball, pinging it around, working those spaces, finding passes, and eventually building up into banger goals.
Right, and they got there. It took till the 65th minute for them to get the second goal, but I think it was well earned based on how the game had been going. Mm-hmm. It was a penalty kick won by Paul Rothrock,
the GOAT.
Who, I mean, God, he was really good.
God.
He was really good in this game
good today, dude. He's been so good over the last three. Like he might be in. I mean, I think this is fair to say he is on the top of his career right now. Like just form wise, easily,
because I mean he's never really done this. He's never gotten consistent MLS minutes before this season. So for him to still be doing this, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Every single week, it's a new thing. But like,
I mean, we could have told you that, but
this. I mean, out of all the Rothrock games that we've talked about this season. I mean, this was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Great work from him to win this penalty. Stone cold penalty. I don't think there's any question about it. And then Rusnak, that was a nasty penalty from the spot. So at 2-0, it's pretty much cruise control from there. Again, Seattle didn't relinquish control of the game, which when you're playing ahead on the road like that, sometimes that can happen, and it's happened to this Seattle team several times in the last couple years. So it was just nice to see them really like keep that stranglehold on the game that they had and never really give it up. Like I said, the Whitecaps did have their looks, but Stefan Fry came through when they needed him to. There was the one in the first half where there was the deflection. That was a really good save. He made another really good save in the second half. And then there was the play where Nuhu had to make the goal line clearance, which was an insane play.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not really like a couple people were pointing out that the Whitecaps had their chances in the game, so maybe it was like not as one-sided as the scoreline looked. I mean, look, other teams are going to get their looks, man. Like even without Scottish Messi, like they're playing at home, they're playing for playoff seeding too. You're not like going to get out of a game like that on the road against a rival without them having a couple moments like that. It's about like what you do in those moments. And Seattle's defense stepped up. Stefan Fry stepped up, and Nuhu, it was 1-0 when Nuhu made that clearance.
Yeah, no,
that could have entirely changed the game. Nuhu arguably saved the game on that play, so I think he should get credit for that as well.
Yeah, no, I think what we can look at here in a way to see how much this team has improved since last season. Last season, it was like the highlight of the whole team was the defense. Fairly, like totally valid because they were playing lights out. Then the beginning of the season, we felt like, it kind of dipped off, but the offense has picked up, right? Like the offense was humming, all of this stuff. And now we're getting into this end of the season spot where it feels like everything is kind of coming together. The defense is playing lights out. Steph Fry makes a mistake. Who's there? 3 defenders. Nuhu makes a clearance, all of that kind of stuff. Everything just seems to be kind of harmonizing. You have Paul Rothrock breaking out, Jordan Morris breaking out, Albert Rusnak on the best season of his career right now. And then you have, Georgi, who's a young player that you can throw into these situations that there's not a lot of film on, that teams have not played against, and he's effective, he's fast, and now he's getting on the score sheet. Just
the way he eliminates guys one-on-one,
so
it's really satisfying to watch after how much of the Leo Chu experience we've had over the past couple years. He really, like, when you're defending him one-on-one, good. I mean, good luck.
Yeah,
like,
good luck,
like
dude.
honestly, like
If you push him to the ground, he's somehow coming up with that ball.
yeah, his like body control
Yeah.
and his dribbling, like he's very technically skilled.
Yeah.
Last goal, Paul Rothrock, great team goal. I loved the dime from Rusnak on this one. Didn't it feel like the Whitecaps were just conceding like an inordinate amount of space? Like it felt like every time
they beat him really bad on that one.
Well, yeah, every time it felt like Seattle got out in transition, there was just so much space for them to work with, and they took full advantage of it on this last sequence where Rusnak finds Rothrock, and really it's not an easy angle on that finish by Rothrock, but he gets another goal. Also, I forgot to mention, but Rusnak had goddamn, he was so good.
He was so good.
With the perfect dime to find Rothrock. I forgot to mention it earlier, but he had one of my favorite dimes of the season, I think, in the first half. You know which one I'm talking about, where he split the guys and found Rothrock right in stride. So he is just still absolutely locked in right now. And
But Ari, it's the Vancouver Whitecaps. He only performs against the bad teams, Ari.
Right, yeah. No, it was honestly, with the Whitecaps being shorthanded, I'm glad you segued that into our update on the Brigade. The Brigade, it was a kind of hot week for them because the Whitecaps are they're an okay team. They're solid, but they're not great. So it's probably going to be a hot week for them, even if the Scots played. But with the Scots out, the caveats are abound, but I think anytime you manhandle a team like this on the road, especially a rival, like I don't put any caveats on it. You guys can put caveats on it if you want. I don't.
Listen, if he wasn't showing up against the Whitecaps, that'd be one thing. But he is. A goal and an assist. Like, what more can you ask?
Well, and it's not even just the production in this game. His all around performance was. I think this was probably his best game of the season as well.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my rapid fire takeaways, which I'm going to just rattle off right here. You can tell me what you think of these. Yeah. I mean, for me, this was the best performance of the season when you take into account what was at stake in the game with the playoff seeding, with the fact that it was on the road against a rival, how thorough it was, how much I thought the scoreline represented the domination that took place on the field, and how precious those points are, and really just a very dominant, thorough performance in a big moment that puts Seattle up to third. They are third in the West right now. They are in the top four. They're in line to host their round one series in the playoffs, which would be huge. That gives them a much better chance of winning it, whoever they play. So they earned themselves a good position through a great performance on the road against a regional rival. So I don't know.
Four wins in 5 games, man.
Yeah, and they're hot in general too. So not much to complain about right now, in my opinion. My other one, just the Georgi thing is I think there's an argument to be made that you should keep starting him into the playoffs. I don't think it's a coincidence that they had a performance this good on offense with him starting. I thought he made a very pronounced impact on the game, and that was the best he's looked, and he scored a goal. So intriguing stuff from Georgi. Is anyone going to want to play Seattle in the playoffs? I don't really think so, man.
LAFC?
That's it. That's the only one, though. That's the only one. LAFC, yeah.
Maybe Inter Miami.
Well, I'm talking West, though. I'm talking West. Who else?
Well,
in the
apparently
West?
the San Jose Earthquakes, but thankfully we don't have to play them.
They're not in the playoffs, thankfully. Yeah, but you think the Galaxy wants a piece of Seattle right now? I don't think so. Last time Seattle played the Galaxy, they destroyed them.
Yeah, and drew away.
RSL is spiraling. They just beat Houston. They just beat Vancouver. They're going to play the Rapids on Saturday, so we'll find out about that. But I don't think the Rapids really want to see him either.
Yeah.
I guess my point more than anything is that the West is wide open. You got LAFC, who obviously, if Seattle has to go to LAFC in the playoffs, I'm not picking them to win that game.
Yeah, we will go though.
Yeah, obviously.
We will go see our Happy Foot Sad Foot boys.
But also, we will. Shout out Happy Foot Sad Foot. But even a road match to LAFC, I wouldn't pick them to win it, but it's not impossible with the form that Seattle's in, and also the precedent of them going to LAFC and beating a historically good type of side, which LAFC is really not even. They haven't had the type of season this year that they had in 2019. That's for sure. So anyway, point is they're getting hot at the right time, and they're in a conference where they could like actually make a move in the playoffs. Like, that's kind of I think what the exciting thing is right now. No, you had one update on the Cascadia Cup. What's going on,
ladies
with the Cascadia
and gentlemen,
Cup?
folks? You thought that we bombed out of Leagues Cup. We bombed out of Open Cup, folks. It's not over. We're in a cup final basically. Cascadia Cup can be won with a draw or a win against Portland in the final match. So take that. You said the season was chalked because we can't win a trophy? Well, guess what? We're right there. We're in a final. Get the champagne ready, boys.
Have you ever been to the Cascadia Cup website?
Yes, it's like bad. It's good.
2006. Yeah, it's great. Look, go to cascadiacup.com or whatever. Yeah. It's really funny.
There's also on the Sound Our Heart website, you can also track all the standings there. We update them as well.
All right, yeah, good update. We already did the anti-Rusnak Brigade update, so we're good on that. Let's hit our agenda check. Let's just get right into it. So I wanted to update first the agenda that I talked about on the last show, which turned out to not be that popular, which I kind of knew it wasn't going to be based on how the discourse has gone this season. But it was this season hasn't been that bad agenda, which a lot of people disagreed with. A lot of people have been talking about this Sounders season like they're wooden spoon winners. I was kind of disputing that on the last show. And like, I don't want people to get it twisted. I'm definitely not saying this has been like the greatest season of all time or anything. My point is that it has not been nearly as bad, I don't think, as people have been talking about it. I don't think they should be talked about like wooden spoon contenders in a season where they're literally third in the West right now. That's not that bad objectively looking at the table. They've won 15 games, goal differentials up to plus 15. I think it's been not great, not elite season, and I think the discussions that we've had all season about the gulf that exists between this team and the truly elite teams in the league, that stuff is all still true. But as far as my take that it hasn't been as bad as it's been talked about, that's strengthened after this week and where Seattle has risen to in the standings. And I pretty much stand by that agenda. Like, I think my only point is just like, I don't agree with the notion that like, it's been like this like terrible, catastrophic, embarrassing season. Like it's been an okay, pretty good season.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with you, because if you look at the play on the field and the players that we have and whatever, it's like, yeah, the season has not been that bad. Again, it has not been that bad. It's been good, perhaps. Is it the best season ever? Is it a trophy winning season? No. What's the standard for the Sounders? Winning trophies. So like, absolutely, you're totally valid to feel frustrated and upset that, we couldn't beat LAFC. Season's not over though. Season's not over. We're looking good. Something that I wanted to note too, the Sounders literally look like they're in playoff form already.
I was going to say like, that's sort of what this team does is regardless of what happens in the regular season, good or bad, they turn up in the playoffs.
They do.
And they have that kind of vibe and look about them right now where like it's like go time, That's how it feels to me right now. All right, let's do our De La Vega evaluation, because
I had a YouTube commenter actually, if we want to cook on the agenda but also respond to.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I just thought this might be a good way. Zach Richardson, thank you for your comment. With the Seahawks profile picture, go Hawks, baby. Geno Smith, legend. Here we go from Zach. You got to relax on the Pedro topic. Damn. He has had minor improvements in every game that you would expect from a player who missed 75% of the season. He created legit chances and looked proactive in the attack. Those little moments frustrating of decision making will work themselves out. To me, it's fairly obvious it's a chemistry thing. Go rewatch the game and pay attention to the Pedro and Jordan specifically. The connection wasn't smooth in either direction. Plus, no, he's not getting, quote, played off the field by Paul Rothrock. Would disagree with you there. Rothrock has the familiarity locked down and is just more in form. They're both starters and justifiably so.
Yeah. So thanks for the comment, Zach. And there was a couple other comments and tweets out there to the same effect. And I think people were saying we were being too hard on him. So I guess that's what I wanted to talk about for this agenda. What do we think of that? And I think there's a case to be made for that. I definitely respect that viewpoint. I just think for me, the thing that you have to take into account is he's going to be judged at a higher standard than most signings coming in from the outside. That's just how it is when you come in as a flashy young DP signing like this, who's expected to make a pronounced impact. If you're not making that impact in stat sheet production and impact on the field, like that is that's going to get pointed out. And it's like, I think there might be a lot to what Zach is saying as far as chemistry and fitness and all that stuff that needs to develop. But until that happens, like he's just, he's going to be judged harshly. Like that's part of what comes with the type of signing he is. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of the things that we've hit on multiple times is he can become something amazing, but like, a lot of the Sounders fans and Sounders, players in the past have come in, been really good off rip. I mean, we obviously, we're a little biased. We had Nico who came in and just like...
That might skew the perception a little bit, and there's a lot of precedent for DPs, especially on the younger side, taking time to acclimate for the league. So I definitely understand that. And when you throw the injuries on top of that, it's true. Maybe I think you could say we're maybe judging it a little prematurely, but
but we do couch our commentary on like, listen, this is not going to be the end all be all of Pedro de la Vega, but like in the context of this season, he has not been good. He has not been good in the terms of like, he has not had stat sheet production outside of a penalty that he was not involved in drawing, but took, which like I loved that. And an assist that got smashed off his face. Like, no disrespect. And you're right. The chemistry has not been there at all. At all. But it's like he's been with the team for how many months now? Whatever. Anyway, the only comparison that I was thinking about making is like Evander. When he first came into the league, he looked like a bot, dude, and we made fun of him, and now he is a legitimate and bona fide MVP candidate.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that definitely, I'm still more than open to the possibility that could happen. And it would be huge for this team if something like that took place in the playoffs. All right, this is my new agenda for the week. Georgi, Rothrock, best winger duo on the team.
Yeah,
not
in the
league.
world.
To ever play. Best winger duo on the team. What do you think of that?
I think that's a take that I like want to agree with, but don't think that I agree with completely.
You can't. It's sort of one of those preliminary, like
I'm happy to push
agendas.
it. I think,
like because the sample's not big enough to say it yet. But I mean, they were electric in this game.
Yeah.
All right. Did you want to update your Atencio more minutes agenda?
Yeah, I thought Josh played pretty well this game. He got some extra minutes. He was making some great runs into space, and I honestly I want to see him. Obviously, the same thing. Get on the stat sheet. Make the most of the minutes he's been given, but. He, in the last few games and just in general, has been looking like he's played really well, and I love to see that. And, I thought the Atencio Obed, did they play together or did Obed get subbed out? I can't remember. Whoever he was playing with in the pivot, it looked pretty solid. And I am excited for our boy to get some more minutes.
Good stuff. All right, let's dive into questions here. We got to thank you to everyone who submitted. We got a few that we're going to go over here. Noah, what do we got?
All right, here is our first one. Are you ready, Ari? Are you really ready?
I'm ready.
These might be flaming hot. I haven't even read these yet. You need a strong academy because they play for the badge. The team out there tonight, they care. That's what it means to be a Sounder. The culture, the locker room, they rally for the badge. Ari, all of these young players, Georgi, Rothrock, I mean, Morris isn't young, but like academy products. Guys, well, I guess Georgi technically not, but you know what I mean. Came through the program, worked their way up. What does that mean for the club and how it's structured, and how important is that?
Yeah, thanks for that observation. That was from Donald Dingo. Yeah, like I included this one because I think for me, it's kind of what's cool about this team is like how much local presence there is to it, and that makes it feel like it's like an authentically Seattle team, you know, like especially in soccer, you have players from all over the world that aren't necessarily affiliated with the city or the place where the club is located. But when you have these academy setups and these youth development structures, and you have local kids come up and actually make it to the first team, it kind of gives the team like that distinct local identity. And I think when you have guys like, I mean, you could go all the way back to Jordan Morris, but like Rothrock, Obed, Atencio, they all are like Seattle born and bred. You know, I know Obed's from Alaska, but he came here when he was super young. So I think what you're saying is exactly right, though. When they have that connection and they kind of like they bleed rave green like a lot of these kids do. You see that in how they play on the field, and we've seen that this year with how Obed has broken out, with how Atencio has played, like you mentioned, and yeah, like Georgi, not necessarily an academy product, but came up through Defiance, through the system. Yeah. So I think I count him in all this, and so I think you have to credit the youth development of the team, and I do think too. I think Schmetz probably deserves more credit than he gets for a guy like Rothrock doing what he's doing this season. That's good coaching to get that out of a player like that who he literally has talked about how he didn't know if he was going to keep pursuing
he said this was like
career.
His last moment.
And now, this was it. Like if it didn't work out here, he was going to go get a real job. And Schmetz has him looking like not just an MLS starter, but a plus MLS starter. So I think you have to that has to be acknowledged in this as well. So anyway, thanks for that observation.
One more thing I want to add on to this too, on the Brian Schmetzer note, is there's not a lot of coaches in this league that would have the, I guess, gall even to bench your multi-million-dollar striker for a random guy who played for your second team, essentially. Like and it changed the entire season, right? Yeah. Benching Raul Ruiz for Paul Rothrock changed the entire season. From that moment, you can look back and track that decision completely flipped the script for this year's team. There are very few coaches that would ever do that.
That's a great point.
And I think that's another just amazing thing about Brian Schmetzer is he grew up in the era of no one made any money. So I don't think he gives a shit how much you're making. I don't think he gives a shit what your stature is. I think he cares about what's going to win me games, who's showing up to practice. And listen, I love Brian Schmetzer, so I'm biased here, but I think that's a really impressive thing, and Brian definitely deserves a shit ton of credit.
Yeah, and I think, we've been, earlier in the season when the results weren't going as well and the team didn't look as good, and we wanted Schmetz to make more changes, we were, I think, critical of him where we needed to be, but I always try and... if I'm going to be critical, I also have to give credit, for the things that
I think he did everything that we criticized too.
Right, but I'm always going to acknowledge the flip side of it, and I really honestly do think that Schmetz and the whole coaching staff deserve credit for how some of these young guys have contributed this year and broken out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. This next one here is from Dan. How much fun was it to watch Georgi and Rothrock play together? Obviously, we hit this a little earlier, but the fun note, the excitement note. Whew.
I mean, they looked like Gabriel Peck and Joey Paints out there.
Yeah.
Man. They literally did.
Yeah.
That's... I mean, I'm still between the two of them and then Rusnak. that was just a cook show, man.
Yeah, no, I love to see them play together too because they both played on the Defiance and they're boys.
That's what makes it fun too. We didn't even talk about the goal celly.
The goal celly it was a Fortnite dance, right? Yeah, it was. Dude, I love them. They're fun to watch. They love playing together. That kind of chemistry, that's important.
There's nothing like busting out a goal celly like that on the road.
Yes, yes.
Like when the other team's fans, especially a rival, see you styling on them like that. It reminds me actually of the very first game I ever went to at BC Place in 2014. It was the Dempsey Oba years, and Seattle whooped on Vancouver. And I just remember Oba scored the last goal and then took the ball and just kicked it as far as he could into the stands. And it was just this like emphatic, I just dunked on you moment. It kind of...
God, I miss him.
Yeah, but like that Georgi Rothrock goal celly, it was like a similar idea of like, we just bammed on you and now we're going to revel in it.
Yeah.
You know, I love that.
I love that. That's along the lines of the dark Jordan Morris era, and I love it.
Yeah.
This next one comes from another Dan, but a different Dan Teller. Sounders now control their destiny for a CCC berth. Folks, let's not get it twisted. No one can ever win CCL again. If these last two games go well, they could end up regular season second or third in the West, number one defense in the league, Cascadia Cup champions, CCC qualifiers. If that's where it ends, gotta call this season a success.
I think there's a strong argument to be made for that, and that kind of harkens back to my agenda from earlier. But yeah, if they finish top 2 to 3 in the West, number one defense, Cascadia Cup, I don't weight those maybe as much, but if they finish top 2 or 3 in the West and qualify for CCC, if they do that and then get bammed out of the playoffs like first round, I still think the season would be a little bit disappointing, if still not like terrible. But if they do those two things and then make a deep playoff run and look set up for a couple of additions that could boost them going into next year, I would feel pretty good about where things stand. And I don't know, maybe I'm just like blindly optimistic compared to a lot of, but like I kind of judge every team, including Seattle, the same way, I think. And if another team had the exact same season that Seattle had, with some of the factors that Dan mentioned there, I would call that a pretty good season.
Yeah, no, I think you were even seeing it with the national pundits, right? Like, we like to zoom out and see how people who don't really cover the team as in depth view the club. And dude, they're in the power rankings. They're like 6th or 5th in the power rankings. Like, they are seen as a top 10 MLS team, a top, an upper echelon team. I wouldn't say like top tier, but maybe subhead, and that's really honestly all you can ask for from a season that seemed like it was chalked from the start.
Yeah, I think what it is right now is you should feel pretty good about the prospects of going into the playoffs and making a little bit of noise. And, I think the expectation should be to try and come out the West. I know LAFC is going to be the odds-on favorite to do that. If I had to pick someone who's going to do that, I would pick them.
I still like the Galaxy.
I don't think... Yeah. I mean, one of the LA teams.
Yeah.
I would probably pick LAFC. But I think you try and make a run this year. I don't really see why the expectation would be anything different. But really, I think what it is right now is looking ahead to next year. What additions do you need to make? What tinkering do you need to do to get into closer, at least, to the Columbus, Inter Miami tier? Where right now, I think you're the tier slightly behind that. You're a good team, but not an elite team.
Yep.
And the goal should be to get back to collecting points at that more like 1.8 to 2 points per game level, as opposed to this year that's more like 1.5 to 1.7.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. This next one here is from Graham. Great to get 3 goals, but strongest performance? Ooh, they're coming for you, Ari. I saw a lot of loose balls, and we had 2 goal line clearances. I'm not a convincing win overall, but still tons to clean up.
He said it was a convincing win overall.
Oh, convincing win. It was sorry, I was about to butcher your question there, Graham. But
Still tons to clean
but
up.
still tons to clean up. Ari,
I
are you wrong?
No, I don't think so. I do have this as the strongest performance overall, and like I said, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I take that into account even with the chances that Vancouver had. You're just very rarely going to make it out of a road game, really any game. But you're very rarely going to make it out of a road game without the other team having their chances. Like I said, it's how you respond in those moments. Can you make the plays to preserve the result? And I look at that the exact opposite way. I give them credit for the goal line clearances. I give Stephen Fry credit for making the big saves in the big moments. I credit the defense for keeping the clean sheet on the road, even with the moments that they had where they had to absorb pressure, and Vancouver had some pretty good chances. They didn't give up any goals. They scored 3. I mean, you really, as far as execution of a game plan on the road against a rival with heavy playoff seating on the line, I don't think you can do it much better than they did it. You really can't.
We've come to the end of your questions. Now it's time to answer someone's question who's way more important than all of you. Me, Ari. This is my question of the week. On MLS 360, Sasha Kleshin posed... He lobbed a scorcher. I'm just going to say it outright. This is what he said. He said, "You know how I know the Supporters' Shield is the best trophy? Because no one has ever said that a team was lucky to win the Shield." Ari, do we agree with this take? How does the Shield stack up to MLS Cup? And in general, do we really believe what Sasha's saying, or are they just pushing a pro-Inter Miami narrative?
Yeah, I mean, this is the age-old debate, Shield versus Cup, so I can just break down how I kind of look at it. I am very sympathetic to and agree with the argument that the Shield is the trophy that represents and illustrates who actually had the best team for the year. I think a 34-game sample proves exponentially more than, a tournament at the end of the season where who gets hot at the right time determines who wins more than who actually has the best quality of team. Now, that being said, I just think that how it's perceived, MLS Cup is the trophy that everyone cares about more and remembers and is gunning for. And that's the one that has more weight on it for me. And I think just because it doesn't necessarily come down to who the best team is, who wins it, that doesn't diminish the importance of it. Like, that's just how we do it here. Like, the playoffs are what determines the champion. And as such, who emerges victorious from that is the top dog for the year, even over who wins the Shield. And the reality is, whatever team wins the Shield is going to say it's the most important trophy,
right.
Especially because it's pretty rare that you see teams win the double.
Mm-hmm.
And
Inter Miami has a chance to win the triple. I mean, I know not the Open Cup, but like if we're counting Leagues Cup, which objectively is a tougher competition than Open Cup.
Yeah, definitely. So I weight MLS Cup more, but if people anyone
or they didn't win Leagues Cup. What am I talking about?
Yeah, I mean, they
don't
won
worry
it last
about
year,
me. They won it last year.
But they could win the Shield Cup double.
Yeah.
I think they probably will. We're going to talk about that. But I think the Cup is the winner of this debate. Even though I definitely agree with the notion that whoever wins the Shield definitely has the claim of we were the best team over a much larger sample than just the playoffs.
I like the Shield, but I don't think that it really proves completely exactly what Sasha is trying to say here. It definitely, you have way more of a sample size, but does that mean it's the best team? You don't play every team the same amount of times, right? You don't play all of the West teams if you're in the East. You don't play, and neither you don't do that in the playoffs either. But I think like if you played every MLS team twice, which would be like 100 billion game season, like hell yeah, I'd be so down for that, like a Premier League style. I still love the playoffs, but like if you're gonna do it, that would be the way to do it. I think both are a huge accomplishment. I don't think either are over each other, but like I think I would slightly rate MLS Cup above just simply because you don't get a star on above your crest for winning the Shield. And, there's plenty of teams who have won the Shield and, didn't really do anything in the playoffs.
The Red Bulls are like the classic example.
Yeah.
They've won a few Shields, but never won MLS Cup, and they're considered a team that is really good and really consistent in the regular season, but like can't get over that last hurdle of winning MLS Cup. Fair or not, I think that's just what the perception objectively is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this is a fun question by Sasha, though. I think it ruffles a few feathers because people think he's just gunning for Inter Miami. But again, remember, he's a Red Bulls merchant, so of course he's going to say the Shield is way more important because his ass never won an MLS Cup. So what are we going to do here? But Sasha, come on the pod. We love you.
All right. Let's hit a quick preview of this Rapids game. Then there's a couple news items. Then we'll hit winners and losers and get out of here. Does that sound good?
Let's
Colorado
do it.
Rapids, better season this year than people thought they were going to have. Chris Armas, I think, is a Coach of the Year contender. Although I think with how their season ultimately panned out, I think that's getting like a little too much hype. They've had a good year and overachieved compared to. I think they were like. Did they not win the Wooden Spoon last? They were last in the West last year. I know that. So full credit to Chris Armas and honestly their front office for some of the for the roster makeover that they did over the off season. They brought in Georgi, which was a great signing. He's been one of the better number 10s in the league this year, and they're just an all around pretty solid, if inconsistent, team that can score a lot of goals for sure. But they also concede a lot of goals. Seattle can get at this team, I think. They've conceded 56 goals this year. They've scored 59, but I think the thing to always take into account when you're going to Colorado is you're playing at altitude, so it's pretty tough. It's not an easy place to get a result. They're 10-3-3 at home this year, so that's really what they've kind of they've built their season on. They're only 5-9-2 on the road. So this is a pretty solid team, but one that the Sounders should be able to hang with. I think 1 point is a reasonable expectation in this game, and with the form that Seattle's in, coming off the big win in Vancouver, I think taking all three here is not out of the question.
Yeah, I would be stoked to get 3, but I would also be completely understood and happy with 1. They are, the Sounders are on fire, right? Like 12 goals in the last 5 matches. They haven't lost in 5. A draw would feel just about right. I mean, listen, the Rapids have scored 6 in their last 5. So they're literally getting outscored double by the Sounders. They should come in here. They should compete. They should be at least competitive.
Yeah. And another thing I'll say about this is you kind of like I've seen Seattle go to Colorado a lot of times over the years, obviously, and you kind of get a feel for how teams just kind of the trends of how they match up when they play each other. And Seattle usually plays pretty well at Colorado. Like it's not like a RSL dynamic where every time you go there, you basically just chalk it up as a loss.
Yeah.
And if you pray for a draw, like typically when Seattle goes to Colorado, they play pretty well and give themselves at least a good shot at getting a result. So with the form that they're in right now, like I don't see why this should be any different. All right, couple news items to hit here. Another one on Obed. No, you want to hit this one?
Yeah, these are brought to you by Sounder at heart.com/LS. Subscribe and you can get all of this news first to your email inbox. This first one, Obed officially called up to the Mexican national team, which the first team as well, which was first reported by Jeremiah Oshan that this was a potential that was going to happen. And
now it's happened.
Now it's happened. They've released the roster. His picture is on it. Some of the Mexican pundits were kind of mad by this, which I think is hilarious. They were like, "Oh, I don't want."
Oh, were they doing the like the bot thing? Like we shouldn't bring an MLS player in?
No, they were doing like we should not be using the first team as a testing ground for player. They're just
I see.
The Mexican media around the national team, I think, is rightfully pretty triggered by how absolutely dog shit their team has been.
Those, I mean, oh man, if you want to talk about some blazing hot pressers,
I love those guys. Oh my god,
an El Tree post loss presser is my all time favorite. Like we think that our MLS coaches get grilled sometimes. The media down there, they don't give a
No,
Like-
they don't give a shit. No, I love that. That like the media tries to goad out flaming hot pressers.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are flaming hot. But this is exciting. Obed said that he feels like his career has been complete just with this call up, and I think that just shows you how much
means a lot to him.
that it means to him, and how important it is, and how he clearly feels like he can be a change maker in El Tri, which is amazing. And I think we've both been so stoked to see him be able to do that. I will start rooting for Mexico if he gets consistent minutes. I'm not going to lie.
I'm definitely, it's given me a reason to, I mean, I'm going to root for him individually. Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. The other one was we got our first, we're going to do a little bit of USMNT punditry right here.
It does well on the YouTube.
Not a lot.
So.
Yeah, it does. But we got our first Pochettino roster that came out, and I really only have one thing to say about this, which is that I thought it was funny that he called Zach Steffen up.
Yeah, what was that, dude?
Well, it's just like so. It's funny because this is this is the exact type of coach, right, that the bots have been pining for years, like a big name European coach. First thing he does is he puts out a roster that has the exact same guys that it pretty much always had, but he brought Zach Steffen back, who's a guy that the bots hate. So it's funny because they can't get they can't get up in arms about it though, because it's their boy that called him in. So they have to like do this balancing act now where everything Pochettino does is the greatest thing ever because he's this brilliant European mastermind coach, but he called in
the bot.
Zach Steffen, who like
objectively one of the worst goalkeepers in the league. He's gotten better, but like,
well, he's definitely, I don't know like what the stats say now, but he's definitely had like an inconsistent at best season for the Rapids. Went to Europe, didn't really do that well. And like for me, like I look at this and I'm like, why not? Patrick Schulte's in there too.
Yeah,
I would literally give at least one of those. I would give one of those spots to Gaga, man. Like,
oh yeah,
or like some young guy that has. So I
mean, I understand because like this is not the camp where they usually bring in a bunch of young players. This is usually they're like, okay, this is our like current set first team. But it's like, bro, Zach Steffen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to the possibility that. He knows something that we don't on that, but like I was just laughing when I saw that. Like,
I mean, listen, they called in Tim Ream too. That dude is a bot.
Tim Ream? I think Tim Ream's. He's. I'll disagree on that. He's put in some good service to the nation, especially at the World Cup when, Lord knows, we needed some CB help, and he came in there and did solid. The thing about Tim Ream...
he plays in the MLS, though, so, like, he plays in the MLS,
The thing about Tim Ream is that he's,
MLS.
like, 36, so, like, how much longer can
Might as well call in Fry at that point.
Yeah, like, I don't know how much longer the Tim Ream thing can work, but the Tim Ream thing is less surprising to me than Zach Steffen.
Yeah, I don't... Like, I get it. I get all these call-ups. I just think that... And maybe the thought from Pochettino is like, let me assess what we have. Let's take stock of our horses, and then once we get there, we can start to go into January camp, bring in all our youngsters, and then we could kind of like judge side by side, which is probably what is happening.
That's fair.
But like Zach Steffen. Like, are we sure?
Look, I'm not gonna definitively judge it yet. Maybe Zach Steffen gets in there and balls out, and it's realistically he's like the third or fourth goalkeeper, so it doesn't matter that much.
Also, how has Jordan Morris not gotten a call? Like, I know I'm gonna fucking trigger the USMNT bots, but like, dude is cooking. He's the perfect. They lob in a bunch of, I mean, I don't know, Pochettino's new style, whatever. But like in the past, they were just like bombing and lobbing in garbage crosses or playing in, balls to like, Jordan would like fit really well in, and he's in great form. And like, you cannot tell me that Tim Weah is genuinely better than Jordan Morris.
I like this take. It's not going to be popular, but cook, brother. All right, let's hit some winners and losers from around MLS, and then we'll call it a wrap for episode 67 here. And I think we'll spend most of this, honestly, on Inter Miami because they won the Supporters Shield, so they are the winner of this slate for sure. They clinched it. with their results, which was
it was a 3-2 win against
3-2 win against Columbus, which by the way, that was also the game of the slate last night. That was an electric game. At lower.com field. And you know what was nice about that game is we've been kind of doing the Columbus versus Miami debate a lot this season. I've been on the Miami side of it. You've been on the Columbus side of it. We got to kind of see how it would actually play out. And honestly, Miami was definitely getting the best of them for a while, but the Crew really brought it back, and the Crew could have tied this game. They played them straight up. They got a Diego Rossi goal to make it 2-1, I believe. And then Cucho had a penalty that made it 3-2. And then the Crew got another penalty kick even after Rudy Camacho got a red card. And Drake Callender made an insane PK save to deny Cucho. And that's what preserved the result. But really, the Crew played him straight up. I will give him that. And I've been pretty firm that in one game in that matchup, I mean, I'll take Inter Miami over anybody. But they won this game. But I think the Crew showed that they can at least hang with them. Even with Messi, everyone was out there. Messi was out there. Busquets was out there. Jordi Alba was out there.
Yeah.
So
2-goal game
Suarez,
by the boy.
the whole gang was out there. But Inter Miami wins the game. They win the Shield. And I think just my main takeaway is not much different from what I've been saying all season, but I think this is the most loaded MLS team I've ever seen. And I think on their day, when everyone is healthy and they are playing their best ball at their peak capacity, I don't think there's ever been an MLS team that's as powerful as this. But in terms of just the eye test, how they produce, and the depth that they have on their roster, I don't think I've seen anything like it.
No. It's insane.
And that's even before you get to the fact that the greatest player of all time is on their team. That's the crazy thing about it.
On the depth piece, they literally were scoring more points per game without Messi than with him. And that doesn't really say anything, honestly, but it does say, oh yeah, even without your best player on the field,
the best player of all time,
the best player to ever play the game,
who's ever played the game,
you're performing.
Yeah.
You're performing to the highest standard possible.
At an elite level.
It's disgusting. This should be... I don't understand. I mean, I know there's the conspiracies of there's no way that they're roster compliant. I don't really believe that because Henderson
that's the messed up thing, man, is they are. Anyone who's perpetuating that, I'll just tell you, they literally are.
Yeah. Are they using, other tactics? Come play for us for pennies on the dollar, but you get to hang out with Leo Messi. Absolutely. But that's one of the reasons
not to do
that's
that.
one of the reasons you sign star players. That's one of the reasons that you use your status as a club to draw people in, like Barcelona or Real Madrid, and now it's Inter Miami because it's okay, you get to live in Miami and hang out with Messi. Dude, that's every Argentinian dude's dream.
Yeah.
So they can get these 14-year-old wonder kids from Argentina that are fuck yeah, dude, put me in the academy. Pay me $10 an hour. I'm ready to go.
Diego Gomez, I think, is the odds-on favorite to be the winner of the 22 under 22. Which,
as he should.
At some point, we're gonna do an episode where I go over my ballot from that.
Yeah,
I have votes for that, so we'll do that. But I mean, I'll tell you, I put him at number one, and I mean, there's just so many facets to how loaded this roster is. But the other point I wanted to make here is, the MVP debate is going on right now, and it's about as wide open as it's been in years. And I think the conventional wisdom is that it's not going to go to Messi because he missed so much time this year. He really only played 1,200 minutes or something, and the guys that he's going up against for MVP played double that.
Yeah.
Let's be real, though. I know he's not going to get it, but let's be real. He's not just the most valuable player in this league and the most valuable player of this season. He's the most valuable player ever.
Yeah,
easily. And just in terms of, and I know what you said is true. They played just as well points per game wise, if not better, when he was gone. But if you're talking in terms of raw value and what that means, there's nothing more valuable than a player that produces as much as efficiently as he does.
Yeah.
He has 16 goals, 17 assists in those 1,100 or so.
He's played
minutes. And I thought Ben Wright, who does great work covering Nashville SC, I saw a tweet from him this morning that I thought made a great point, which is that if you just gave Messi another 1,000 minutes without a single more another goal contribution, and he had 16 and 17 in that same amount of minutes as all those other guys, he would easily be MVP.
Easily.
So like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why when I look at it, I'm kind of like, you know what? I know he didn't play as much as these other guys, but like, if we're honestly giving it on the merits, he's probably the MVP. Like,
I'm totally cool with them giving him MVP.
They won't. But
Yeah, like, but I'm gonna say it like respectfully. In the minutes that he's played, dude, like he is balled out. Like there is not another player who you would be like, okay, this person's gonna touch the pitch for limited minutes, have an injury, and still produce, you know, statistically up there with every other MVP candidate.
He
like,
produces at a rate that if you were doing it in like Football Manager or FIFA, like it would be unrealistic.
Yeah.
Like having actually watched his games on a regular basis, like all the way through for the first time since he got to MLS, he's as close to a real life cheat code as I've ever seen in any sport. You know, it's like, you know how like, the NBA 2K makers can't make Steph Curry realistic because the shots. It's like that's basically the
he's game breaking, and I think like to further my point, it's I understand they're not going to give it to him, but what other player in this league genuinely makes an impact from front to back on a club as much as Leo Messi? Like I'm saying, like we were just talking about the ability to bring in young players and market him as a tool to not only drive fan engagement, but to like bring young players and build depth on your squad off the back of someone who isn't even playing in those matches. Like, I think, I know MVP is based on the stats and what you do and how you play, but like if we're talking about just like a general like player who has completely made this Supporters Shield season, and could they break the record? Is that still possible?
Yeah. If they win their next 2 games, they break the record.
They could break the record for most points ever. I don't know. If it was me, I'm a shill. I would argue for our boy Leo Messi.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's definitely got a great case.
I know people like to hate too and say like, oh, the league is just a Messi shill, but it's like he's still so good.
Well, I mean, and just their whole team, you gotta like you can root for their downfall while also acknowledging that they're playing the best ball that probably any MLS team has ever played.
And I'd probably hate them if we were in the East, but we're, you know.
I think the only thing that can slow them down for MLS Cup is injuries. If they stay relatively healthy, I don't see a scenario where they don't win it, to be honest with you. DC United, Nashville was a crazy game. Nashville was up 3-1 in second half stoppage, or 3-2 in second half stoppage time, and gave up a brace to this DC guy for DC to take a 4-3 win. So DC stays alive for the playoffs.
And Benteke with 2 more.
Benteke is gonna win the Golden Boot.
Yeah.
My boy Troy Lesane might get them into the playoffs. So
Coach
I think
of the
year? DC. I mean, I'm voting for him, but I don't know if anyone else will. DC is a winner for the week for sure for that, and Nashville is a loser for that. Let's see what else happened.
Can we just? I know we talked about Benteke, but just real quick, how absolutely terrible would that team be without him? I think he's I know he's not gonna get it, but I think he's a genuine MVP candidate. Like without him and his production, assists and goals, this team would be close to wooden spooning, if not wooden spooning.
I like that take. Benteke, if he got it, I wouldn't argue with that.
I would be so happy. He's going to get the Golden Boot, though, so shout out.
I think you got to put the Sounders in the winners section for the week for a 3-goal win at Vancouver, at BC Place to vault up into the top 4 in the West. And NYCFC took a big win hosting SC Cincinnati at Red Bull Arena. They take a 3-2 win. So that was another notable result. And the Galaxy bammed on the Colorado Rapids 3-1 in Colorado. That's who Seattle plays next. So that's a notable result as well. All right. Unless you got anything else, I think we can call it a wrap there for episode 67. Thank you so much, as always, to everyone for tuning in. We love and appreciate all of you, all of our subscribers, all of our listeners, all of our viewers on YouTube. Like, rate, comment, subscribe,
Share with MVP
write
Benteke.
reviews, share with Lionel Messi, share with Christian
we're like
Benteke.
a couple reviews away from like passing Nos Arietes on number of reviews. So like, you know, we're competitors and lovers at the same time. Go drop us some reviews on
Drop us some
iTunes.
reviews so we pass Nos Arietas.
Yeah.
We're going to call it for this one. Until next time, we out.
Peace.